Dragon here is not a good choice. And that's not something that you practice as a team, like when is Dragon safe or not really. It's just more like so many of their elements were practiced very well and the players made individual mistakes in the heat of the moment, and some of that's low stage experience. Not in Che's case, of course, he's a normal starter for Jin Air, but sometimes that's what happens.
Yeah, the blue side Lulu ban too. I'm really surprised to see that.
Yeah, we saw the Lulu ban earlier, but now that they're still banning on the blue side. The Lissandra being taken out, they didn't like how much they had to deal with that in a negative way, of course, on CLG's end.
Do you think this is going to be a Gragas third ban, or are they going to go over the Kindred? I honestly would have banned Gragas. Like, I don't think...
Alongside the Elites, or you mean instead of the Elites?
Well, I think banning the Elites is fine. Banning the Tahm Kench is good, but I think third ban, I would still rather ban Gragas. I don't think Smithy plays the other champions as well, and he didn't really do much in the early game with Lee Sin, and he couldn't get Zion snowballing as hard as he did in like the previous set.
I think it's fair.
The big ban that I'm seeing is the Lissandra, and there's really no one who engages quite like Lissandra does in the current patch. You're much more reliant on a TP flank with other forms of hard engage. Lissandra, of course, has the freedom to do so with that glacial path pretty much from any position. And by taking Lissandra out of the equation, by taking Riven out of the equation, you're forcing Jin Air to play something completely different. So we're going to have to look for something with more late game scaling, a team comp that's going to function differently, because CLG should be scared of that last composition, because as Saint said, it's one or two mistakes that really let CLG win the game, and obviously CLG played amazingly, Darshan especially, but if they get behind again in the mid game, you know for sure Jin Air aren't going to give them an opportunity to come back like they did in game 1.
Yep, sounds about right.
And on top of that, a lot of people say, you know, he's a Riven one trick, so I'm actually curious what he's going to play. And I mean, he had the counter pick here, so he could have punished really hard.
So the ban being left open and Kindred going ahead, getting through, and CLG's just going to pick that up. The Gragas was still open too.
And again, that becomes a flex pick here, so it's like, is Jin Air going to start getting rid of the rest of the junglers with the next few picks, or can CLG decide much further down the draft if they're going to play Gragas after all, if they're going to play, you know, a Lee Sin after all, if they're going to pick a different AD carry, or, you know, what goes on there?
I like taking away the Alistar, though. I thought Aframu had some really clutch plays and just saved the game over and over again in that last game.
And of course, they're assuming that the Kindred is going to the jungle, so they have the free time necessary to pick up that Gragas later on. And the Gragas-Kindred interaction, as we've seen, is pretty important coming in to knock people out of the Lamp's Respite overall. And but it looks like CLG
there you go.
snagged that one up themselves. So
whoa, buddy! Top Kindred.
All right.
That could be a top Gragas or something, a soloing Gragas. Or support.
Support Gragas is a thing.
This is the thing, is that this is just Anarchy picks and bans now, because now we're just grasping at straws trying to
Anarchy didn't quite make it here.
That's true.
Yeah,
No, actually, I guarantee it's a support Gragas. It's actually really good against Alistar, because you can E the headbutt pull combo, and the belly's so fat that it'll actually stop. I mean, you'll both like stun each other, but you can use it as a way to like buffer.
You can get it away from your AD carry.
And then, like, if you Callista ulti and throw Gragas into, I mean, you can get some nasty engagements.
I'm just gonna say, like, when I put on some weight and my friends are like, well, dude, come on, you gotta get in shape. I'd be like, no, I really need to be able to stop those headbutts. You never know. I just gotta get in there.
Hey, his belly used to be bigger, if you remember.
That is true. It used to be bigger. But that's a pretty surprising choice here on CLG, just trying to lock down all of those forces on their end. Meanwhile, Jin Air saying, all right, you know what? At least that means the Ashe is on our side this time around. Pilot should be able to pick that up, of course. Winged also going to go back to Lee Sin for himself.
They have two champions that have displacement as well, so that's just going to help out a lot with kicking people out of the Kindred ultimate. I like that pick too. And I think Lee Sin is definitely the best jungle pick into Kindred, specifically because of that. You can pretty much burst her, and then when she ultimates, just kick her out and just finish her off.
So overall, it also sounds it sounds like that they simply just ran out of time. They couldn't decide what to ban on the side of Jin Air, and it just went over. So that's why they missed that ban. It's not because of any penalty or anything like that, just in case people were wondering. So that did give CLG this option, right, of picking up Kindred, Callista, and Gragas.
Well, we're going to have to see how that counts against them, because letting Gragas through is a pretty big issue in any circumstance, even if Kindred was the first pick, because I'm not sure what Aframu can do if that is the support, but if it goes back into Smithy's hands, wherever these picks end up going, that's a lethal Gragas. It's already been proven to be a crucial pick for TSM's success. What the heck happened?
I guarantee it's a support Gragas.
What if it is and it's a mid bar?
Yeah, is there any bar? It's happening.
There's still hope, okay?
It's also just great because as they were mentioning on the commentary desk, for one, it's generic Green Wings' other support player, Sweet, who was really famous for his Bard, but in Korea, the one who debuted Bard in competitive play was Jay, his teammate. And then Jin Air just became the team that was known for their Bard. So Aframu now saying, you know what? These days, a lot of other people have caught up. They pick up the Bard. I mean, let's be honest. These picks for CLG do seem a little bit crazy. Just overall combination-wise.
I'm just going to talk about Jin Air because
Okay.
this composition, I don't even know where half these picks are going.
It's
so I'm just gonna
counter
stay
logic.
away.
It's just
It truly
in their,
is.
Yeah,
their-
they're like, we knocked out Unicorns
court,
of Love. Now we are Unicorns of Love. Like, and
You think Zion's gonna play like a top Kindred or something?
oh my god,
I think it's more likely to be top
So-
Kindred mid-fifth.
Yeah, that's
the
what
other
I
way
was
around.
thinking. I mean, we were joking around, but top Kindred does seem the most probable.
Mid Kindred has a lot of coverage to get to the jungle camps that much
Hey.
easier. They're gonna mess with us, I guarantee. Until
Yeah, but
they
let's talk
absolutely-
about generic Green Wings then, because that seems pretty straightforward instead. LeBlanc was the last pick instead of Cassidy.
So I like the Ashe as a reliable hard engage option. I think that's something that they used very well in the previous game. Additionally, picking a more aggressive champion in the mid lane may give Kuzan an opportunity to kind of show off here. And Ryze is overall just an incredibly powerful pick on the patch, and we've seen how degenerate it can get when he gets ahead, when he's able to chain snare and able to lock down those picks. But the biggest issue is while they have a team comp that they know how to execute, they're playing against a team that they've never seen before, that no one has ever seen before. So how this team composition is going to play out is a pretty huge question mark.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to jump into game number 2. Don't forget to download the Score Esports app as you follow along to find out more details about player stats and player interviews throughout this weekend here at the Intel Extreme Masters. But for now, with the crazy picks from CLG, can they close it out 2-0? Let's find out with Doa, Monte Cristo, and Crepo.
All right, thank you, Chobra. We are about to get into game number 2 between Counter Logic Gaming and the Jin Air Green Wings. CLG just barely pulled it out in game number 1. Now Jin Air comes back with this insane composition. I don't even know if I can really ask this, but what do you expect to see in game 2?
I mean, just judging on the picks, I like the interaction between Bard and low mobility carries like Ryze and Ashe.
Okay.
I think it's interesting that they flexed Kindred in multiple roles. Nobody really know where she was going. She has been played in mid lane. She's super snowball though. Like if she gets behind, she's done for. Like, but you can snowball if you get a good level 3 or 4 gank. It's actually quite potent. But either way, that mid lane matchup is gonna swing super hard.
Well, yeah, and we saw even Jin Air playing around with some of these flex picks, taking that Ryze, looking like he was going the mid lane. But Kuzan's played LeBlanc before. He did roam very heavily on the LeBlanc game that he's played in Champions so far. And this is a composition that Jin Air can really make a lot of picks with. Look how much single target crowd control they have. Setting up with an Ashe arrow to Ryze or LeBlanc burst is going to be very effective. CLG, however, they're really reliant on Xmethy's ults, which is good, because Xmethy's really been performing on Gragas, so he's been able to isolate targets, but they're going to have to rely on that. And CLG, they got to survive the early game because, Crepo, you and I were talking, and you pointed out, no wave clear.
Yeah, 0 wave clear. If you're a fan of wave clear, you may just want to close your stream right now because either team, there's
That
some
one guy just did it out there. I love wave clear. Oh, done.
done. Yeah, by our powers combined, maybe Ryze and LeBlanc can effectively clear waves together, but that's even a little bit iffy. But for me, this game will boil down to the junglers. Both Wing and Xmethy have so much responsibility because any of these matchups tilt either way. Like you have Ryze into Fizz, whoever gets ahead can really dominate that matchup. If you have LeBlanc into Kindred, whoever gets ahead can really dominate that matchup. So and that only happens with the help of the junglers.
Yeah, it seems like a lot is going to depend on Pilot's Ashe arrows as well, too. I mean, we saw Stixay do okay with it, but I feel like Pilot, might be a little bit more experienced with the Ashe arrows. And we did see them use the Ashe pick in the Kespa Cup as well.
And some aerodynamics coming in there.
Aerodynamics, that's
Pilot.
right. You got it, man. Well, I think it's about time to move on to Summoner's Rift, guys, for game number 2 between CLG and the Jin Air Green Wings. CLG with a chance to 2-0 Jin Air. I think we're going to see this one go to game 3. That's still my official prediction, but we will find out as we go out onto the map, see who takes it.
Well, regardless from CLG, I mean, coming into this with all the drama around losing double lift, and Stixay looks flawed, but they've been playing around him quite well, and he did hit some of those arrows that really mattered in the last game to stall it out even further. And they've shown that their macro play is still pretty good, and So-On is in a tough situation.
Well, flash for flash.
See, what they were trying to do there was force the Ryze to move to this choke point that CLG is right there. After him was in the Baron pit. They wanted to hurt him into that choke point and then queue over with the Bard. So really cheeky little play there from CLG. Luckily for Soan, he actually chose to path upwards.
You know, I just love this comp by CLG, not necessarily for anything it may or may not do, but just for the simple fact that people are questioning how deep are CLG's champion pools? You know, what new stuff can they bring? And it doesn't really get any more random and new than this.
I mean, it does surprise me that they're showing some of these picks as they're 1-0 up in the semifinal, because you think that maybe you want to save some of these shenanigans for a best of 5 against Origin should they make it there, but they're certainly not pulling any punches. They're showing us some very fun stuff.
I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, you can always mix and match with some of these picks throughout that next best of 5 if they make it too.
Yeah, they're bringing the solo queue experience to Summer's Rift right now. Limited practice, so maybe they just play whatever they're comfortable on, and they try to put that in the framework of good shot calling.
Interesting invade here coming in early on. Huhi, wow, getting a lot of damage down with that Dance of Arrows.
Yeah, and you got to wonder how close this LeBlanc can really get. It's a very fragile pick early on, and so far, Kuzan just completely zoned out of everything.
Going over to the red buff immediately, too, so just taking advantage of the fact that they did blow that flash from the Rise early on. No bones about playing aggressive from CLG.
I like this. They're dedicating so hard to the top side of the map, because not only is Xmithie already in position for early top lane ganks or gank mid from the left side, Winged has no incentive to actually go to the top side either, because his jungle has been cleared.
Yeah, let's see what he can do. He looks like he's going to be heading around right now. Huhi doing a great job of denying a ton of early CS, and Winged is going to head over to the enemy red buff. TP used by Soan to get into that top lane, but that means it's still going to be up for Darshan.
I mean, with lane control and teleport still up, if Darshan can push in the Rise and they can look for a level 3 dive with the Gragas, that could be the game over. Soan, no flash.
Blue buff given over to him, though, as a result of that jungling, so he is going to have some tools to play around with in that top side. Does have to be careful. Xmithie takes his blue buff in the meantime, and there is a swarm of Sentinels, but not going to see Wing there.
He's stealthily taking that red buff. Maybe not intentionally stealthy, but he's going to get it anyway. Kuzan taking another big amount of damage, goes back in with the distortion. Whoa, manages to pop the passive. Huhi taking quite a bit himself too, but with the jungler not around, he knows he's pretty safe. Wing coming in now, though. Yeah,
not the best trade there for Huhi. He took a lot of minion damage in that trade, and now Winged has to get out of there, and he's just going to get over to the minion wave to avoid Xmithie coming from the rear end. Of course, when they are pushed up in the bottom side, they can't make a play, as Afro already on the roam from the bottom lane.
Speaking of the bottom lane, Aframu heading back down there. Yet again, you can harass quite a bit with Bard, but against a lane like Alistar Ashe, you're going to be able to sustain against it too. So it's kind of a moot point as far as the poking goes really on.
Yeah, a bit of a missed opportunity here. Rise with no flash that decided to push the wave. Lee Sin clearly in the bottom side of the map since he had no jungle caps up in the top side.
Darshan.
CLG should have probably went for at least some sort of pressure on that Rise. They forced Soan's flash early and they're not capitalizing on it at all.
It's true. Looks like Winged is coming up now. No ward spotting him. You know, with the health of Darshan up in this top lane, I wondered if there was maybe like a dive opportunity available for Jin Air, but they just didn't have the deep wards, I guess, to try it.
Yeah, it's still so risky, and CLG, you really just don't want them to snowball. You have to be confident in the late game. Jin Air is going to be much better in the late game, I think, with the Rise coming into play.
Now they're going to try to chase Soan away. Soan again with no flash, and just like Krepo was worried about, trying to take advantage of that Ignite use, and they're going to come in and finish him off. There it is, first blood goes to Darshan. A trade on each side as Xmithie gets taken out, but it looks like it might be 2 for Jin Air. Can Darshan escape? Wing chasing, there's the flash, he's got the red buff. Darshan burning, and there's another kill for the Jin Air Green Wings.
And that top lane is frozen too. That's the biggest part right there. So that's going to play into Soan's favor. Darshan just used his teleport. That play right there, it was too late. They were already in position. Wing could farm up to level 3 or 4, then make his way to the top lane to counter gank there. He almost blocked the body slam. It was a really nice move that he tried to do there.
Yep.
But not only that, Rise actually ended up with one of those kills too. Ideally, in that bad situation, you'd hope that maybe Wing would get both of them, but it kind of ended up in a bit of a wash. And now Soan's going to have a big TP advantage in about 30 seconds, and that'll be interesting to see whether they can make a play down on this bottom side after Ashe hits 6.
And we'll see. Aframu a little bit low. Jay comes in for the knock up there. The headbutt pulverize combo.
And this was a big question that we had because we really haven't seen Stixxay and Aframu in a 2v2 lane yet. How are they going to fare? How is Stixxay going to do against maybe some TP plays in the bottom side? And that may be a major factor in this one.
Well, just straight up 2v2. I mean, Pilot and Shay are no joke. That's a pretty solid bot lane. So definitely a good test for Stixxay and this new CLG bot lane duo.
Yeah, and one thing that we haven't talked about yet is Winged. It's like he is trying to draw some aggression. Cosmic Binding goes down, but CLG's duo not going to bite. Wing just going to head out the backside. Is that I believe that if CLG wins this game, this will be the first time ever that a North American team has beaten a Korean team in a best-of series.
I think you're right. Yeah, wow. Meanwhile, exhaust onto Jay. Aframu has a flash away. Aframu in a lot of trouble. That heal barely keeps him alive. Oh, is he gonna live? He makes it out with basically no health remaining. Sub 50 hit points. Darshan, meanwhile, trapped by that rune prison, but the trap is sprung, and so on the flash to try to get away. Can he make it, though? No support coming from the Jin Air side. They've got the ward as well. 2x Smithy coming in. There's a slow from the barrel, and there's another kill for CLG. I'll tie it up in kills.
Yeah, Sohan just pushed very far up right there. He still has his TP to get back into lane should he want to go farm. And we'll see how much damage Jin Air can get onto this turret. A freeze going to be initiated by Darshan here. Huhi coming around will find Winged in his jungle. And Kuzan kind of been a bit of a non-factor this game, and he's been denied a whole hell of a lot of CS so far by Huhi.
Yeah, Huhi's certainly been doing a good job in the mid lane, but things have been a bit sketchy elsewhere on the map. Kuzan just trying to stay alive, stay semi-even in CS. Man, taking a lot of damage from that Kindred. There's a passive popped yet again. He takes a bit himself, but not enough to really worry too much about.
Might be best for Green Wings to avoid this top lane where they're losing. Hang on, arrows coming out. Thinking of Kindred.
Oh, he nailed him. Can Kuzan capitalize? That's a lot of damage. Here comes Shay. There's a knock-up, and that could nearly be a kill. Can Huhi escape? He's in the Kindred ult. Can't get out of there. Oh, he gets taken down. Kuzan with the kill. What an arrow from Pilot.
I think he could have waited.
I think he could have waited for the heal right there before. Yeah. I totally agree.
Could have. Aframu takes a magical journey out of danger there.
But that was a fantastic arrow from Pilot.
No kidding.
Well, Pilot's been an interesting AD carry in Korea. He's been very inconsistent. It looked like when he debuted, and he did split time with Captain JAG this year pretty significantly, but he started out as this player, as we see Wing taking the blue buff here, that he really liked. He was great on Corki. And he was good at these Trinity Force AD carries. And at the start of the summer season, he started playing Vayne and playing Vayne very well. And it looked like he was turning a new leaf. And Pilot now showing up on this Ashe is something because he hasn't been the best at non-caster AD carries over the run of his career.
Yeah. You definitely don't think of Ashe when you think of Pilot's best champions, but he's changing our minds.
I mean, Ashe was out of the meta for very long too. Very few teams really can make use of her. She's so different than all the other AD carries. You really need to use that arrow to make a pick, and Jin Air could do that. They have teleport available on so next arrow could be arrow into teleport. Maybe make a play on the bottom, avoid that really tricky situation they have going on in the top lane where Smithy and Darshan are showing that they will have really good synergy right now.
Yeah, Darshan is falling a little bit behind in terms of farm too, so that he has been zoned out by Sohan. And he didn't actually end up picking up that kill from the last gank. So slight gold advantage here so far for Sohan, but they haven't really, truly slowed down the rise yet.
Yeah. That's going to be the real danger once we get late game. I mean, one of the real dangers anyway, coming in from the Jin Air Green Wings. That rise gets rolling. Speaking of the rise, taking a lot of damage up in top. Doesn't even need the arrow. That rise is long gone. No help there. Nope. I guess he would have hit his own teammate with the arrow if he would have been alive, but no, he wouldn't have. That's impossible.
Yeah, really no help. Nice dive there from Darshan. Gets another kill. That's what he needs to start. Really snowballing his way. Great binding.
Great pick from Aframu.
Hey, they can dive that. They can make the turret invulnerable with the Bard ultimate and go for the dive. Let's see what actually happened here. Just Aframu coming in. Yeah, easy to see.
Yeah,
that's about that for the rise.
Did make that look quite easy. Nice tanking for Afro there.
Yeah.
Making sure that the Fizz gets out nice and safe. Che now in the mid lane.
Oh, there's a knock-up onto Che. Gets hit with that body slam just a bit. Takes a lot of damage. Nice explosive cast by Smithy. We saw how good he was on that Gragas yesterday. Proves it again right now. helping Huhi pick up a kill.
Yeah, just not level 6 yet there for the Alistair, and with the flash just barely down, not much they could do, but Che just wandering straight in. We're still looking at a pretty even game in terms of gold, but CLG holding on, getting some kills.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they need right now. Just a couple kills here and there. Looks like we're in for another pretty close game.
Both teams really looking for picks, so need to get creative. And I like that Afram is roaming in a pick versus pick comp. Bard is actually really fun to play. Oh.
Here we go. Doesn't quite hit him with the Tempered Fate. Soan just definitely dodges that with the speed from the Rise ult, I guess.
Yeah, he just popped his ultimate right there to get out of it. So that was
a bit preemptive, though. You can actually just walk up a little more and then force you to either walk into your teammates at least if you want to juke it, so then Darshan can connect the damage. I think there was a bit too much distance on that, but the concept of the play is correct. You know, walking up top, magical journey into a bush that you assume is not warded, and then go for the surprise ulti as he's going for a lost it, but good reaction from Soan.
All right, Huhi did get the mark onto the Scuttle Crab right there, so they're going to try and take it out, and he is going to get that, so a little bit more damage there for Huhi. That's a nice pickup. He's actually had a couple Scuttle Crabs, and Jin Air going to react just by going straight for this dragon.
Now, can they get this dragon? Doesn't look like CLG is really organized enough to put up a defense, so Jin Air will be getting the first dragon of the game.
They're tracking TPs, though. Soan is way out of bounds. No teleport available. Has to base and then walk all the way to the top lane. So Smithy could technically path over and go for an instant redive.
Yeah, and Darshan has caught up in CS as a result of this play. So sacrificing a bit of farm onto Rise in order to make this work. Blue buff grabbed by Kuzan. And they're trying to make sure they don't have any wards there. We'll find Smithy lurking around in the river.
Yeah, Huhi just pushing his lane up again on that Kindred.
Yeah, see, looks like Soan is going to be able to save this tower. Lots of damage done, though, because of Darshan's Sheen. And now this, I mean, Kuzan's been really well contained by Huhi. He's setting up these big zones with Wolf and not really being able to push out and start roaming.
Yeah, just like you said, Monty, Stixxay kind of isolated from his team here, just left alone farming on Kalista, a champion that you would usually require your support to be with to really proc that passive. So CLG opting for a very roam-heavy approach with Aframu and just letting Stixxay sit there in the bottom lane. It does allow Jin Air to use their AD carry as a global threat with the arrows. Really incredibly hard to land, but big payoff if they do land.
Indeed, so just a ward clearing going out now for Jin Air. It's like we're just resetting so we can see maybe a use of TP again. Darshan's is up, Soan still waiting on his Pilot. This is volley just to clear out the wave. One of their few forms of wave clear here. A very low wave clear game in general, which means that we've had all of these opportunities for roams. When it takes so long to push out the wave, you do tend to end up with higher kill games because you have more opportunities to move around the map.
Well, Pilot and Che protecting their bottom turret for the moment anyway. Getting that first dragon has got to feel pretty good for Jin Air at this point.
Yeah, they sacrificed a bit of a lead in the top lane to do it, though. So it did have its price, but they seem like they really want to play around dragons here. Pink ward in that brush, Wing trying to creep into the lane for a gank, or at least a counter gank here, as Solan just wants to make sure that he can get this lane, these minions all the way into the enemy turret. Yeah, he's just going to back off after that, but they're not going to check for that pink ward in the lane.
I guess not. Ping's going down on red buff. Looks like that's where Wing wants to go. Meanwhile, Pilot takes the first turret of the game for Jin Air.
That's the price of Aphromu's roaming right there. They did get a lot of tower damage down on the bottom side, and they did zone off Stixxay and Aphromu for a little bit earlier on in this game, so just that chip damage.
Yeah. 1v1, it's incredibly hard for Ashe to, for Kalista to really do anything against an Ashe. Repetitive poke, you keep him at distance. Worst case, you have the arrow to really punish that. Smithy's gonna find that pink ward.
Yes, he is. We'll get seen, though, so they're trying to just to make sure they get push up. Solan actually just going and moving in here. They're going to try and set up a pick with this Ashe moving into the top side. They want to see if they can get some damage done, but nope, just going to move Ashe straight in and have Rise cover the bottom lane. They want to move their wave clear into the lane with the low turret.
Into a fizz, though. That's pretty risky.
Well, you got to do something, I suppose. Teleport down to bot lane. We'll see how well Soan can do it defending this. Should be able to clear out the wave quite nicely.
Yeah, he's actually going to TP in.
Coming in, Che is right there to protect, though. And TP canceled now for Darshan.
Yeah, 2 TPs actually used. Of course, Soan getting down there. So actually having to flash, though, in order to avoid the Tempered Fate.
Yeah, that's certainly what you want to do. Tempered Fate, force a flash. Anybody can flash it. But then the cooldown, obviously, you're trading cooldowns. You're trading Flash for a Tempered Fate, and that's definitely in your favor. Darshan here looking, spots Winged, is in a 2-for-1. No backup possible.
Smithy going to come up, though. He's going to be coming through the river. They want to punish him for taking this turret. There's the ult.
Oh, ult right on the pilot. A little bit of damage to start things off. Darshan, though, has to run away. Ash Arrow connects, and Darshan could be in trouble. Kicked into the wall. That's more damage, but here comes Smithy. And with Huhi on the way, too, Jin needs to back off.
Pilot has been so on point with his arrow, predicting that, and now we just see Che getting that knock up, trying to force him off the turret. Huhi wants to get mid lane.
The CLG really wants to take this turret. Looks like they'll have to wait a little bit longer, as Jin are able to defend it for the moment.
Pretty bold, though, to go for that play from Darshan. 2v1, full vision.
There may have been a bit of miscommunication, thinking that Smithy was maybe a little bit closer, but he actually ended up being.
Yeah.
So on now here, so no mid lane, but there's a lot of chip damage on these Jin turrets right now. That could result in a pretty fast CLG gold advantage.
Yeah.
Che knew there was a ward there. He has a ping. Still deciding to recall will get canceled.
The big question is right now, Dragon up in about a minute, who's going to be able to take it? If CLG takes this mid lane, they'll be putting themselves in a pretty good spot to try something.
Yeah, this is CLG. They're going to get it this time. They tried so many times last game. Finally succeed relatively early at the mid lane tower kill here. And CLG in both of these games has really just been playing for pressure advantages. They haven't been too likely to skirmish. They just want to group, play for turrets, and that's about it. And then play for the split push. It won them last game. It's going to get them another turret right here. So everything's starting to fall for Jin, and they're going to nearly catch up in gold.
Yeah,
Pretty impressive.
Just like that, the game pretty much evened up. Jin really needs to focus on the second Dragon.
Try and react and take down a mid turret of their own, but they really haven't gotten that much damage because Huhi has been so dominant. Now with the Trinity Force, that's a really good power spike for a Dragon fight coming through right now. Kuzan's still just kind of sitting on a Morello Namicon and a blasting one. He's actually not going to do too terribly much damage at this point in time, and so on. He's scaling too with that Tyrian Rod of Ages, so I think they're going to have to give this drag up.
Yeah, they should definitely do it, because if CLG is tracking the Sowan's flash timer, it is an incredibly easy Tempered Fate to use in that fight, and then you can really put Ryze in an uncomfortable situation where he gets piled on.
Well, they see a slow push, pings in the top side. Looks like Jin minions are going to be pushing towards that tier 2, so it may just be a delay tactic, a stall tactic here from Jin. See if they can waste some of that time that CLG is spending.
CLG clearing out plenty of wards too, just to give themselves a better position.
Yeah, Jin should definitely not take this fight. This is the wrong timing for them. Fizz has the Morello Namicon in the Sheen. Very dangerous.
You know Jin though. They may want to try this anyway.
I don't know if I know new Jin, Doa. This is very different than the Jin
I think we've got a pretty good idea of new Jin at this point.
Just go nuts, go ham all the time.
Ooh.
Oh,
That Tempered Fate is something CLG could really have used.
I don't like the distance. There's a certain distance, which is like 1.5 screens, where Tempered Fate is almost impossible to dodge, especially if you're on boots 1. I think it's disrespecting your opponent if you throw it out from that far.
Well, CLG is going to go for this. Kuzan comes in for a lot of damage onto Alframu, Dragon at half health. The CLG should be able to get it. And yeah,
you just got to pull back. No, you don't do that fight right now. You're not real. Jin, their goal is not to win this game based off of Dragon stacks. Their goal is to win with huge amounts of late game damage and picks. And so if you can't find the pick, if everybody's already grouped up, don't worry about it. Try and reset for more vision later on so you can keep using that Ash Arrow, because that's what's been effective for them.
I mean, the fact is you got the first Dragon, so you don't need to worry about a really fast 5 Dragon stack by CLG. You've certainly got time to play it safe. Kuzan trying to do some damage here.
Yeah, trying to zone them out so that maybe they could deal some damage to the mid turret, but CLG just too much there right now. And he's mid lane Kindred, definitely doing some work so far. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's doing enough work, because the low range on CLG in the late game means that they are insanely dependent on good barrels.
Yep, and they're very prone to just get annihilated by Ryze. I mean, if you're playing a Ryze and you're playing against 2 carries, or 3 carries, one of which is melee range and the other 2 are sub 500, it's incredibly easy to just punish that and just whittle them down.
I mean, that's the big question right now, is that, yeah, CLG is doing well, but are they doing well enough? You know, are they going to be able to close things out fast enough to avoid that late game from Jin?
They're going to get another turret, and Darshan is making a bunch of money off of these solo turret kills. And again, he's just been doing work on that split push. He's about 600 gold up on Soan right now, and a lot of that is from just the fact that he's been there pushing down the towers.
You have to question the Kalista pick thematically, though. If you're CLG and you play a style that revolves around the top 4 members of your map and you leave Stixxay kind of isolated, then you know what use is picking an AD carry that scales into the mid game but not necessarily into the late game. You can make a lot of plays with Fate's Call, but they don't seem to really put Stixxay in a position where you can make those plays. Hasn't used a single ultimate this entire game.
Yeah.
Oh, we're just going to be in a period of waiting for a while.
Yep. This is your kind of game. You wanted this.
I wanted, yes, deep lane freezes, Rise slowly powering up over time.
Yeah, that's a ton of fun.
The sword of Rhizocles.
That's right. So definitely hanging over their head. We're just going to ignore that ward. Just want you to take it right now. And just backing off. They just want to play very defensively for the moment.
It's a very different look from Jin Air that we're seeing this game from what we saw in game number 1. And you know, if they can manage to play for a late game and then play that late game well, that really says a lot about their team. After losing a game like they just did, to play methodically, to play safe and close it out like they're trying to do, that'd be pretty good.
Yeah, Huhi.
Respect from Sohan though. He could have stood at the edge of the brush and went for that play, but he's respecting potential backup. CLG have a lot of fog of war in their advantage. If you look at the vision that CLG has, and more importantly, the vision denial, you see 5 pink wards on the map for CLG right now.
Yeah.
Very good warding.
So you just really don't know if they're on the bottom side of the map or not, or whether they are moving up through their own jungle. They have everything from the river downward under their control, so you can't take those risks.
The problem is though, that's usually the setup for a 1-3-1. But because Pilot can always move into fog of war of his own, the threat of the arrow in a 1-3-1 just tilts any of these matchups. So CLG kind of scared to push on farther than their vision limit. And that's where all the objectives are. Tier 2 towers, maybe some jungle camps, so pretty much a stalemate. Teleport coming in.
Yep, we'll see if they make a play here. Not quite.
Was that the Kindred mark?
It was the Kindred mark that someone was standing on top of.
You got Kindreded.
I was like, what's that swirly thing there on the map? Nope.
Yeah, definitely standing on top of the Kindred mark. So it looked like a halo in the TP coming in, but yes.
I just want some action, okay?
You just want some action? Well, this is typical Jin Air. You don't get action. You get low kills.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Waiting until the late game while they dance around the map.
This is much more the Jin Air we're used to in Korea, isn't it?
But at the same time,
Kuzan trapped against the wall. And can they actually finish him off? No, not quite, but it was close.
Where's the Fate's Call? You could have Fate's Call predicted the distortion. Afram was skilled enough of a player to really get over there, and he went for a pick.
We'll sub you in next game, don't worry.
I just look for the kills, man. I just want to see somebody die, okay?
Well, you're not going to see that. But when we talk about Jin Air the last game, they were winning some of those late game team fights or going even when they didn't have Baron buff and when they had a clearly inferior composition. CLG doing a great job on this tower, though. Moving from lane to lane, sieging down, just chipping away at the tier 2s. But Jin Air may have just changed their mindset. They said, look at this, we nearly won that game at 50 minutes, and we kind of didn't have any business being that close that late, given the fact that they gave up 3 Barons. Sure, they did some work with the 5th Dragon stack, and they had just a poor composition late. So let's just play more relaxed this time, get the Rise for ourselves, and try and make this kind of composition work, and just be very patient. LeBlanc will get big, given enough time.
That's right.
There's a Hex Drinker pick now on the Kindred, so they have to factor that in when they try to annihilate her, especially in interaction with the ultimate. Kind of makes things tricky. If you try to burst her in CC and you think you can just get her just enough right before she can even cast the ultimate, and then Hex Drinker shield pops in, it can change the entire scope of a team fight.
Yeah, it's not gonna work.
Looks like they are going for Rise here. Yep, Temper Fate use another flash. See the magical journey.
Yeah, and this is a great way to slowly control this game. They get that flash out 15 seconds before the dragon spawns. Heading back down now. They've got a huge ring of pink wards, so it looks like Jin Air just going to be giving this one up too. Unless they really want to try their luck, but this would be a pretty terrible decision right now because you have to see that target in order to reliably hit that Ash arrow, so you're not probably going to get much right here. They do have 1 ward in, but Kuzan already chunked out. They're going to go for it.
Wow, they catch Huhi. Oh, knock him up, and Hui's going to go down. Dragon taken by CLG, but can Jin Air get any more kills? Che flashes, gets the headbutt, but CLG still manages to disengage. Jin Air used a lot, tons of summoners used, and only came away with it, or came away with 1 kill from it. And they may lose Wing. Trapped against the wall. No, he'll make it out with the safeguard.
Well, there is a big minion wave in the top lane, though. They did initiate a slow push, and that will be all lost. Now, the question is, can they actually get some sort of turret from this? They're going to keep trying to make picks, and Afro's going to go down.
Nice pick by Kuzan, getting in there and getting the damage done. And CLG needs to worry about that. This LeBlanc is starting to do a lot of damage.
Question for me is this worth it? They need to get that mid lane turret down, and they've kept sticking around the bottom side. Sure, they got a kill, and fortunately for them, they delayed the recalls, but there's no one really to take down the mid turret right now. And Wing, he's got the warrior in chat, may have enough damage, but Kallista's moving up.
We like what
Like he does. Yeah, he'll get it.
I'm a big fan of the actions here from the Green Wings. Barely get the tower. It's low enough for somebody to later on walk up and just whack it down.
One hit, man.
They really punished CLG's overextension. They got one pick on CLG. CLG still opted in for the contest on an area 4v5 for no reason, and they're making these sloppy plays just like that fish right there. They're going for fights they shouldn't even go for. Like, why? There's no purpose fighting over that area in the bottom side of the map. Dragon is down. I mean, unless you really like Krugs, I don't know why you're fighting over that area so much.
I know you really like.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I would have fought that
your
area,
kind of
but
thing, yeah.
that's why I'm not there anymore. My obsession for Krugs lost me my passion for the game.
Did you lose your passion?
Yep. Just one more Krug. Just one more. Just give me one more.
Do you have to go into Krug rehab?
They're like, this is a Gromp. Here, only Gromps for a week.
Just whittle me down.
Yeah.
My method on.
You know, I wonder, too, how much damage that top lane tier 2 for CLG took. There was a wave there for quite a while. Had to do a bit.
You actually got it quite
wow.
low. There's
Yeah.
a lot of damage that's been going on to that top lane, and the slow pushing has been better this time from Jin Air. CLG definitely had an advantage in that in the last game, but that top lane tier 2 is nearly dead. It's sitting at about 350 HP right now.
That slow push for Jin Air really spent a lot of time while everything was happening by Dragon, and it paid off. Meanwhile, Jin Air just trying to control their lanes for now. Suppose you just kind of farm and wait for the next Dragon, huh?
I mean, this is going to be a slow game, realistically. We saw last game how So1 is actually a very cautious player. He was rarely, of course, he might just die here right as I say that. He's got a ton of wards, though. I mean, look, he's got wards in try, he's got wards in lane, and So1 was being cautious about not pushing past his ward line with that Riven over and over and over again. See Xmithy taking a little bit of damage there and trying to clear out some control over the Baron.
Last game was actually sped up a lot due to the double teleport from Jin Air Green Wings, either in their favor or against them. Sometimes they would double TP to a side and CLG would get so much at the other side of the map, or they would make a pick and get an objective out of that. Now there's only a single teleport at each side, and that kind of plays into the stalemate that we're seeing here. But I think CLG is comfortable with playing the waiting game because they have an incredibly fast Baron with Kindred, with Fizz, and Kalista, and almost...
It's not as fast as you can get, really.
As fast as you can get, and also it's unsmiteable.
Uh-oh. So1 has to back off here. Burns that ultimate just to get away. Looks like he'll make it.
Yeah, he's just been so cautious. Like, he's just not getting caught out whatsoever. He's stifling a lot of the moves they want to make, and now he's got a full Seraph's Embrace, he's got a full Rod of Ages, and this is where the Rise starts to become so exceptionally dangerous. It's like CLG may have found an angle, though, to finally finish off this mid-tier 2.
Yeah, looks like they will get it. Yep, there it is.
Great zoning there by Xmithy.
Yep.
And nice play. They just keep giving him the runaround on the map, and they're a step ahead again as Darshan gets here. They can kill these. They have 2 Sheens. They can take down towers very fast.
That means you have 2 Sheens. Arrow comes through. Oh, doesn't really, well, would have hit 6A, but he cleansed out of it. Jin Air engages anyway. He low again. There's the Kindred ult pop. So1 very low, taken out. A lot of low health members across the board. Double kill already for Kuzan before he went down. That Tempered Fate may have bought CLG enough time. Looks like Jin Air is going to have a tough time pursuing. Winged barely lives.
That was good cosmic binding.
Jeez. Yeah.
More of that.
Really close fight right there. 2 for 2 in the end, but CLG escaping with flashing red health bars. Pilot couldn't really get into that fight until the very end, but he did land that arrow. Stixxay, fast fingers. This time around, Stixxay did get that faster QSS, and it really paid off right there. Sees it coming in. Actually hit Afro right there, so
okay.
he used the QSS for nothing. Just kidding.
Well, he was fast at it anyway. This one really could have gone either way. Kuzan certainly did quite a bit of damage. Pilot just barely far enough, and that Tempered Fate, man, I think that really saves CLG from getting ace there.
Yep. That's what I like so much about Cosmic Binding, because the stun only triggers once both targets have been hit. So very often you will hit part one, they will flash away, make a dash, and then second target's hit, then they get connected. So you see this very elongated Cosmic Binding just stretching out. It's quite a peculiar visual.
It's cosmic, so theoretically it should be very long.
Well, Dragon up in 30 seconds, and many, many pings here coming in from Jin Air. This has been the focus of most of this game so far. Solon starting to get quite fearsome now, building up some more MR to deal with this Fizz just a little bit better, who has been sitting on Sheen for a while and is trying to get some more magic resistance, but it's going to be incredibly difficult for CLG to fight this. And Smithy getting caught out a little bit.
He is a little bit. We'll see if he can get away. Arrow misses. Close call there.
Bit of miscommunication. They weren't quite sure whether they should follow up, mostly due to Fog of War hiding behind Xmithy. It's also very dangerous to just use too many abilities on a tank.
Yeah.
They turn around really quickly, especially with Kindred in the game.
Yeah, so getting the wards down on Baron, and Kuzan, whoa!
Man, that was bold. Nearly gets taken out. Tempered Fate catches the clone. Kuzan makes it up. Soan, not so lucky though. Nice explosive cast. Gets knocked up one more, and that's going to be another kill for Huhi as Jin Air has to back away. They may give up a dragon because of this.
Yeah, Tempered Fate catching Soan right there at the very start of the fight, so they had a time to set up on him. CLG definitely going to take this next dragon. That's going to be number 3 for them. They're starting to really pull ahead in that dragon race.
Yeah, CLG doing a fantastic job predicting whenever Kuzan jumps in on that LeBlanc, making him low, and then, yeah, beautiful Temper Fate. And Shay walked into the second part of the Cosmic Binding. Let's watch that again, how Kuzan gets so low.
Yeah,
Just
nice dodge away there
exhaust
from
immediately too.
Stixxay.
And then you look at that ultimate, and then the follow-up. Shay's gonna walk back into it. Oh, it's so well played by Aftermoon.
Yeah, and then immediately too, isolating Soan with that cast while simultaneously ejecting the Alistar from the fight. Very nicely done by Xmithy, who really has been on point.
Yeah, his Gragas is looking so good this tournament.
That's a bit too many wars, Afro.
Yeah, you may not need all those.
Well, he's not going to clear any of them, in fact, but he did
wow.
find the field of warding right there. Has to be careful. Going to take a significant amount of damage. I mean, this is a 4-kill LeBlanc that we're talking about.
Yeah, and Aftermoon went Frozen Heart first. He likes his CDR against an Ashe and a double AP composition. It's kind of interesting, one could say. I could argue for it being suboptimal.
Already an Aegis, I guess.
Xmithy getting caught out right here. He is completely surrounded.
Gonna turn on to Che, but Jin Air probably gonna be able to take him down. The rest of CLG frantically trying to catch up. They use the arrow on him anyway. Not a lot left when the rest of CLG gets here. He knocked into the team though. That was a pretty dangerous move for the mid laner on CLG to try, and they pay for it. It's a 3v5, but Darshan, of course, what else would Darshan be doing? He's off on the other side of the map, killing turrets. Jin Air, they're going right for that Baron, though. They may give up an inhibitor if they focus on it, though.
I think they should just go for the Baron right now. Just go ahead and take it. You have a Rise. He's in enough of a power spike right now that you could totally just do this very quickly. Now, what will they trade for it will be the question. Che taking a lot of damage and getting stalled out, forced to use that flash.
Oh, Baron taken out by Jin Air. Recalls immediately. I don't think, okay, Darshan a little bit nervous about sticking around and going for that inhibitor. Okay.
No.
Send him on his own magical journey, I guess.
Stixxay coming over the wall, but gonna get hit actually with that Blade of the Ruined King. Knocked back.
Goodbye.
And rended to death.
That was brutal. Kuzan coming in, though. Can he find a pick here? Onto Aframu. Q landed. Wing gonna chase that Soan. TP's in from behind. Stixxay in a lot of trouble here. Trying to kite away. They're gonna settle for a kill onto Aframu. TP canceled. Darshan not wanting to try that. He's like, what? I don't interact with other players. I only interact with turrets. Well, Stixxay kicked away. Still alive though. CLG turns it around onto Wing for the shutdown.
Darshan enabled PvP.
Never mind. Oh, that's a lot of damage on the pilot. There's a double kill for Fizz. Sohan on his own. So long, Sohan. Triple kill for Darshan.
And wow, what a mistake by Jin Air trying to go in on that. They overextended and allowed themselves just to be picked off one by one by one. That Baron not really going to mean anything right now. Death timers are still low, so it doesn't look like that CLG will be able to easily take an inhibitor off of that, but very poorly played Baron by Janair.
Yeah, and some fantastic kiting overall from Stickday earlier parts of this fight. Now, this is slightly, unlucky, lucky call, whatever you want, CLG turn here, but look at Darshan, really good fish here on Pilot, and they clean up. Kindred coming down from the bottom of your screen, kind of dealing with the LeBlanc and the Rise there.
Yeah, just a huge amount of damage, and Huhi, who started out this little sequence of events with some really interesting dives into the enemy team, actually does get a good cut off at the end to make up for his previous mistakes. So basically canceling out the effect of the Baron that they lost, and that's absolutely huge because they opened an inhibitor up as a result of trading for that Baron, and then they nullified the Baron immediately afterwards. So that advantage really CLG.
Yep.
Absolutely. Ahead in Dragons, ahead in turrets, ahead in kills, ahead in gold. Well, ahead in every category. But can they close the game out? It's looking good so far. And a 2-0 for CLG over Jin Air. You talk about the strength of this new roster. I think nobody can really argue with that after a series like this.
We're looking at a scary late game though. Once these Quicksilver sashes get picked up on the carries, then later on we can drop the fish on the floor, walk away if your name's Pilot. Later on as well, we're looking at the Zeeks from Che that can amplify Ash's damage even more. So-On is never going to stop scaling. So late game is still incredibly tricky from CLG, but they do have the tools to make very creative fights. Tempered Fate, Kindred Ultimate, all these tools that we don't really usually see in a lot of these games. So if CLG has the mechanics down there, they can shape the team fights into their advantage.
Smithy walking through a ward into the mid lane. So Jin Air has a pretty good idea of where everyone's at. Dragon up in about 45 seconds. Certainly something Jin Air needs to be aware of. A fourth Dragon for CLG. It's not something that Jin Air wants hanging over their head for the rest of the game. Darshan going all the way down to bot lane though, and with no TP, Jin Air's got a little bit of time to move in on this Dragon.
Yeah, they have some time to get vision control. He'll be done clearing that wave by the time that the actual Dragon spawns, but they're going to lose quite a few wards as a result of this. There's another big minion wave that Jin Air had prepped. They do get some chunk damage down on Kuzan though, which is quite helpful.
Yeah, it's really important that they clear wards on Jin Air's side so Kuzan can come out of a bush, because if they see Kuzan setting up for the distortion, arrow goes from Pilot, field goal.
That's 3 points in football, but it's nothing in League of Legends.
They're trying just to isolate them, but Darshan now coming up from the flank, and they're not really able to move forward. There's a Cosmic Binding, and that's going to force the ult out of Che.
And Che caught, forced to use that ultimate.
See Tempered Fate here.
He could. I think they're just going to turn for that Dragon. That's exactly what they're doing. Magical Journey brings Xmithie and Huhi along for the ride. Stixay there as well.
And they have total vision of this going down right now. They've used the hawk shot. Darshan on the flank.
Uh-oh.
They're going to try and stop him. Darshan going to be coming in from behind, but Jin Air sticking together. Tempered Fate going to catch So-On.
Darshan failed his jump.
He failed his jump, so he's kind of stuck on the other side there. It's a 4v5 for the moment. So-On could turn around with this. Xmithie very, very low. Stixay taken down, a kill for Kuzan. Xmithie has to flee, but there's the all-front Viz finally finds Ash, and that will be another win for CLG in the team fight. So-On turns around, they found Huhi. Whoa, never mind. Now it's 2 for 3. Jin Air coming out a little bit ahead. I feel like this one's not over yet. It's hunting time for Rise.
I don't know if they're going to be able to actually chase down So-On here. But actually, it was CLG coming out ahead that fight. They get the Dragon. Here's the TP coming through.
Darshan wants to kill So-On. He's going to find it too. Another kill for CLG. End up 3 for 3 in that fight overall. Or 2 for 4, I'm sorry, in that fight overall. CLG way ahead.
Them CLG keeping their cool. That fight started off with Darshan face planting into the wall, while CLG, all the members expected him to be there, including Darshan himself. So luckily for them, they did have a lead, and they just had a fantastic open here.
Check it out.
That's such a heartbreaker too, because this could have been a game-winning team fight for CLG.
Xmithie played that so well. Triple cast, and body slam for Peel. Stixay catting on the side, but kind of overcommits a bit. CLG could have disengaged, but nobody really noticed Darshan failing his jump there.
We noticed.
Yeah, and honestly right now, they have to deal with this Fizz. This is now a 9-kill Fizz in this game. He has 9 of CLG's 15 kills. He has an immense amount of gold right now. He's about 5,000 gold up currently on So-On, both the farm and the kills. So they've got to take care of him quickly. And I think may be able to clean up the rest of CLG, but this kind of snowballing, and now he gets a Void Staff just outright on top of everything else.
He doesn't believe in components. He only
Guess not.
buys like full items.
Well, I mean, he just got a triple kill, so
Can do that.
coming in.
Sohan did finish his QSS. So he's got a little bit more survivability. QSS done for Pilot as well. So Jin slowly building into the team that can deal with the Tempered Fate, that can deal with the Cosmic Binding as well.
But I don't know if Kuzan can actually deal enough damage so far into these fights. And he just hasn't, while he's made some good solo plays, his team fighting really hasn't been on point, and he has had a nasty habit of getting poked out before he can actually contribute.
And there's two factors to that. One is the vision control from CLG here. We'll get back to that later as we see a Baron being attempted.
Yeah, they're going for it.
Hawkshot
Baron is about
used.
half health. Jin knows what's up. Are they going to go in and try to fight this? Baron very low. CLG takes it. Shay comes in. A little bit low. Pops that ult immediately. Wing trying to force Darshan on the fight while the rest of Jin engages CLG. But there's a kill already for Stixxay. Shay's ultimate is gone. Pilot cleanses and runs away. Darshan all over him. And Kuzan on his own can't do a lot. There's another kill for Fizz. That's 10 so far in this game. And CLG just going to turn their attention right to the mid lane with that Baron buff.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic call there from CLG because there's nothing that can backfire on that plan. You have Kindred who does Baron incredibly quickly. If you do get engaged on, you can put the ulti in the entire pit and that's your failsafe. In terms of Smite versus Smite, you have Kalista who can rend execute the Baron. So fantastic call by CLG and they may well take the game.
I think they're going for it. They may be going for the win right here, and a win would send them to the finals. Darshan pushing by himself in the top lane. I know that's not something we've seen a lot today, but that's just what Darshan does sometimes, guys.
Darshan's really had a hell of a tournament so
He
far.
has.
He's been so impressive in the way that he pushes these lanes by himself. Very calculated. Again, just not really getting caught out and consistently taking objectives.
CLG's vision control overall, as we watch that again here, Stixxay immediately cleansing out or with the QSS so he can rend execute the Baron. Good zoning here, ultimate. Sohan has no business walking forward because this sets up for a beautiful Cosmic Banding, double stun here. And once the Rise is dead, the fight's already over.
Yeah, nobody was even there for Jin. They sort of filed in one by one. And all of their important abilities were down by the time the fight started. Alistair combo had already been blown by Che going into the pit. Pilot had already used that Enchanted Crystal Arrow and had been cleansed off. So they really couldn't continue that fight. It would have been much better for them just to back off and try and defend.
Now Jin trying to position themselves to maybe take this dragon. At least keep that fifth one away from CLG. If CLG gets that fifth dragon, it is over.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it probably already is over.
It should be eventually, but it'd be over if they get the fifth dragon on top of everything.
Yeah, CLG did such good work with that Baron buff too, and they've shown just a lot of different styles of compositions, a lot of different styles of play. Again, they're playing around Darshan's strength on that split push, but he's shown now many different champions that he can be successful with in this tournament. Riven, Fizz, Jax. He's been able to do the damage and play the way he wants to in every single game.
Yeah, we can see that even though CLG replaced two members, they still have that framework there, especially the synergy between Aframu and Xmiffy in terms of vision. Very often the reason Kuzan has been poked out and caught off so much when he engages is because he's not flanking, and he can't flank because he's constantly in vision. CLG always has knowledge where he's coming from, and then it's incredibly easy to punish LeBlanc. So CLG very wary of their surroundings overall.
Yeah, bringing those Baron minions. It's a huge wave coming into the base of the Jin Green Wings. It's kind of the last stand. Dragon up in 20 seconds. CLG not too concerned with that. If they can just push ahead here, even if they have to fall back, they can just fall right back to that dragon. And looks like that's what they're going to do for now, taking the magical journey. And how fast can they kill this dragon?
3 imps down. They can just wait. They don't even have to start it.
Yeah, they should just really wait for it right here. I mean, they have the Callista, so it's pretty easy secure. There's not really a chance here, but I mean, they can also take absolutely zero chances.
I mean, no inhibs, right? So they're just going to take the dragon. 5th dragon stack for CLG, and they are poised to 2-0 the Jin Green Wings. They move on to the finals.
What a way to go out of the tournament, you know? Against 5 dragons, 0 inhibs, slow, painful death, you know? It's not like, oh, we lost a team fight. No, I'm gonna watch you suffer. It's gonna be a nice sad plane, CLG is thinking right now.
Well, NA taking their first best of against a Korean team ever. They want to savor this victory.
Well, this
Make
is
it as complete as it can be.
I mean, this is such a story for CLG, too. After everything that happened in the offseason, all the criticism they received, and now they're coming in, and they're looking like they're going to be moving on to the finals.
They went to Korea twice, couldn't do it. They may do it today.
They needed Korea to come to them. That's really what they needed. One Nexus turret down. They're going to dive in there. Whoa! Two members of Jin are very low health already. CLG wants to win this final fight in his chaos. Ash Arrow comes in, doesn't do much at all. And Darshan doing so much damage on that Fizz. And this is it. There goes the Nexus. CLG will 2-0 the Jin Air Green Wings and move on to the finals.
What great patient play we saw out of CLG in that game. They knew their win conditions. They played it out very well. And Darshan, Zion Spartan just having a wonderful tournament so far. And the same can be said about Soaz, their opponent in the finals. I am really excited to see these two guys go head-to-head.
Well, this roster, this CLG roster is looking like an extremely strong force to be reckoned with looking ahead to next season here in North America. And they're certainly looking like a force to be reckoned with against Origin in the finals, too. Showing a lot of different stuff, a lot of different champions, a lot of different strategies. And with as good as Origin looked in their semifinal match, and as good as Origin looked in Worlds, I think we're in for a very close finals.
And it's a nice redemption for CLG, too, after getting knocked out in the group stage of the World Championship. Now they're on the final stage here, and they have a chance to prove that they can compete with teams as good as Origin.
It's going to be a tough task, though, because the one thing that generally sets Origin ahead is the ability of Niels and Mithy to really break open the lane aspect of this match, and I don't think Stixie and Aframu are just quite there yet.
Yeah.
In addition, Darshan has been doing very well, but at least Soaz could hold his own. So if Darshan's neutralized and he can start snowball, he's the pivot around which CLG turns. So I just feel like Origin does everything CLG does, but better.
Well, we'll find out. We'll not have to wait too long for the finals, but CLG is going to be competing on home turf here in North America, here in San Jose. I really can't think of a more exciting finals.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. And I still think Origin probably has a pretty big edge right here. They were my pick to kind of take this tournament in the first place with all of the roster changes that have been made by many of these teams. And Origin being the one that was both doing well at Worlds and made, I think, a very obvious upgrade to their existing roster that wouldn't really affect their synergy all too much.
But for CLG, as an organization, this tournament's already a win. Like, they test out a new roster. A lot of criticism came. Like, you release your star player, you know, one of the arguably the best AD carry in North America. Why would you do that? The way that kind of went out, and they show up to the tournament. Yes, they're not finding complete teams, but the basis looks strong. And if they can actually get some infrastructure, get the coaching right, with Tony taking the reins of that team, they can actually become, again, a top-tier LCS team.
And what I like about CLG is they know how they want to play the game. They have a very clear plan. They seem to actually be able to implement that very successfully in the tournament so far. So they know what their identity is, and they're going to play to that. And they don't make a lot of silly mistakes. There were some in the first game, but in the second game in particular, they looked like they could really hold their own and just play the game their style.
That's right. So with that, time to send it down to the stage to see who he has to say about that win.
Well, let's go back to the picks from this game. I would say they were pretty counter logic. They're kind of crazy. We didn't know what you guys were doing there. Can you explain to me those picks and your theory behind that?
Well, I always liked playing Kindred mid, and it seemed like a good strategy. Like whenever we screamed, we always took like a Kindred Elise at the same time, so the enemy couldn't take any like first priority jungle. So it was really good, and I found her really strong in mid lane. So I tried to play her, but it didn't really work out this game. But I still think she's pretty strong pick, yeah.
Well, yesterday you guys won, today you won again. You've proven that you guys are a cohesive unit. Can you tell me a little bit about the dynamic of your team and who's calling the shots?
Mainly JAG, which is Aframu, is like the main voice of the team, and like pretty much everyone has their own role. Like for example, like Smitty, he says like no in the team fight, which means we cannot fight here, so we all need to back up, and like everyone just talks like a lot, and we care about like each other in real life. So like I think that's how we get the synergy.
What about when Darshan kind of pulled a Peke there in the first game? What was going through your mind when you saw him do that?
Sorry?
When Darshan pulled a Peke in the first game, what was going through your mind then?
I was like, in my heart, I was honestly like doubting myself. I'm like, holy, is he doing that? And like the combo, you can do it, you got this, and like, and we won, and we were like super crazy, and we felt like we won like the championship. I'm like, guys, calm down. We only won the first game. Let's go back.
You still have some games to play, but we liked watching you celebrate. Now, speaking of the championship, though, next up you're going to face Origin in the finals. What would it mean to you guys to win in front of your home crowd?
Obviously, like it will feel really good, especially like it's our new roster. Like we came to IEM with like a mindset like let's enjoy this tournament. Like it's our first LAN, so let's not be nervous. Let's like show like we don't suck. So, I mean, I feel good, and it will be definitely like a really good start if we win this tournament.
I would say so, and I think the fans love you. So congratulations, Huhi, and Chober will send it back to you.
All right, Huhi, and of course CLG moving on to the finals. Does everyone remember when I said Origin and CLG will be in the finals of Intel Extreme Masters San Jose?
No, I don't.
No, I don't.
remember that.
You guys
Are we an analyst test, or are we just here to feed your
Wait,
ego?
do you not remember that? If
No,
you guys
actually-
don't remember that, be sure to go back and check some VODs on Plays.tv.
Oh no, we set you up
And
for
you'll
it.
be able to find out a lot more than just that. You'll be able to see some highlights and POV VODs from all the matches this weekend at the Intel Extreme Masters. But let's break down the game since we have some smart people here at the desk. I don't know what's so funny. But let's talk about that a little bit. CLG 2-0ing Unicorns of Love, and everyone's like, okay, well, they played well, but Unicorns looked a little weak. Granted, Generic Green Wings is not the reigning champion of Korea or anything of that level. But hey, they're still a pretty high-ranked team in Korea. Everyone gives them respect in Korea. They come in and CLG says, nope, 2-0, even if the first game was a little bit scary on both sides.
Jinner's game 1 was incredibly confident. Game 2 looked much shakier, and it's clear that when Soan is not on that ribbon, that he's not nearly as comfortable. Now, he played a number of picks over the course of the Kespa Cup that were quite effective. He had a fantastic Shen game, among other things, but it was clear that when it really came down to it, he was not comfortable with Rise. We saw him drop multiple snare combos. We saw him kind of inconsistent performance overall, but at the same time, I can't blame him. Facing down a Fizz that's not a top laner we've seen in a while, very powerful, and Darshan has been absolutely on fire this tournament. We cannot give this guy enough praise.
Yeah, I mean, as they were talking about Darshan and now going against Soaz, that's a matchup that's going to be really, I mean, it's going to be fireworks for sure, because Darshan, some would say, did absolutely everything he can to carry these games.
Yeah, he pretty much just put the team on his back. Yeah, I mean, especially that last game, he was like 10-1, and then the game before that, it was like, oh well, you know, we're losing some dragons.
Literally win the game for you.
Yeah, right. It was the Darshan show.
Yeah, it really was today. And Freak, how did you watch those games? I mean, are we a little bit more convinced now about what this team of CLG is capable of?
I am even more convinced that Darshan's really good at League of Legends, and I'm glad that like throughout the years, like watching Zion Spartan in the North American LCS, now he's like evolved to Darshan and gotten like way better. I think this is actually, before it was Wiz Fusion to Apollo, I think now Zion Spartan to Darshan is now the best name change in the history of the North American League of Legends scene. This guy's done absolutely amazing. And again, the core of CLG is still there. The Afro shot calling is still there. The Smithy got like twice as good as well, which is great. Darshan got way better as well. And so like all this core is still there, and the spikes of individual talent, like Smithy and Darshan's individual play are like winning in the game. There's still a lot of rough spots. He did not have a good Kindred game.
Right.
Stixxay had some good plays, some bad ones, but it was enough for a B-tier Korean team.
I mean,
Wow.
wow. Okay,
I
so
mean, you're not wrong. You just like, I don't know why you felt
I mean-
the need to throw that in.
I mean,
Because
let's be
they're gonna
honest,
face
the A
Origin,
tier
who's
are
an-
the teams who went to
Who's
Worlds,
an
right?
S-tier European team.
Yeah, and then Origin is technically, yes, they went the furthest in Worlds outside of Korea, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll take it. I'll take it. Fair enough. But I do like that you brought up that point that, yes, Darshan was in the spotlight, but people were saying Afro had some clutch moves. He did, stop that recall, which helped Darshan carry that game in game 1. And throughout, he's had some nice saves. Of course, like Smithy, from yesterday to today, continuously making space for his team. And Huhi and Stixxay filling in the parts they need to.
I'm still not sold on Smithy, though. The first game where he had Lee Sin, he pretty much had zero pressure. And
Okay,
I
fair.
feel like if he doesn't get the Gragas, it's just...
True, yeah,
Not gonna be pretty.
it does remain to be tested a little bit on where his limits in champion pool really stops. Is it just Gragas, or is there more?
I realized something actually. Like back in the North American LCS, we made fun of Smithy for whiffing all his Sejuani ultimates.
Yeah.
I think he was in his mind playing Gragas the whole time. Every one of those whiffs Sejuani ultimates would have been great Gragas ultis. Like way back when. Like watch those VODs.
This
and
is-
imagine it was explosive Cask. He would have been the best player in the game. So maybe this is what it was all along. And yeah, as soon as you ban Gragas, it's back to the old Smithy.
All right, maybe there's something there. Maybe he's just used to explosive. Yeah, I'll take that too. Well, ladies and gentlemen, regardless of what the reasoning was and who was in the spotlight, CLG does move on. We do have an EU versus NA finals here at the Intel Extreme Masters. We're going to take a short break, and during that break, don't forget to check out esl.gg/Amazon IEM for a lot of products going on sale right now, and that's also going to help increase the prize pool for these teams. Origin versus CLG. And now, before we take the break, we also have a special little gift for you, a world premiere trailer for something small called Pure Ponage.